Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's here. It's going to be a fun day today. I'm just trying to get set up. We got a fun one here. Let's see. What can we put around the edges that looks good? Oh, there's one. Put a few stars around it. There we go. Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Maybe some of you saw this. Maybe some of you read this. I think you'll like it. It's a fun story. Well, let's get right into it. What do you say? Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. It's a big book, so we're going to have to open it up real big. All right, here we go. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was a Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Here we go. Let's see. Can you see both sides there? Okay. Seconds later, something flew through the air, headed towards the kitchen ceiling, and landed on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. This sounds like fun. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he ever told. Across an ocean and over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Ho, ho. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, and it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice, and it snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. Oh my, look at that. Now, somebody just called and complained that the thing is coming in sideways. Is it coming in straight for you guys? Can you all see it? Somebody text me and say that it's okay, all right? And we'll keep going. Because my assistant's not here right now to check me. All right, I think we're going to carry on. It is sideways. Now, how are we going to fix this? Don't want you guys to read sideways. Well, let's go on. We got to keep reading because this is a good story. Sometimes it blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. Okay, y'all who are watching this on the phone, just turn your phone sideways. All right, here we go. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned up things after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Oh, what a good idea. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. What's that say there? Spaghetti ties up town. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day there was only broccoli, all of it overcooked. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Oh. Another day there was a pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. And the food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. People were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently, and awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors, roofs were damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. Oh, boy. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Oh boy, no school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a giant stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind, accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was just too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time, and many of the houses had been badly damaged by those giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So, a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together the sandwich pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land. Look at that, they're floating on bread. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves out of it. Oh, bread houses. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked and was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake till the end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter on the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. Well, that was a different one, wasn't it? I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week with another story time with Pop-Up. That's what my grandkids call me, Pop-Up. See you then.